This like really blew my mind. Hey guys, it's Kristen and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the mid-season return of the Charmed reboot. As with most of my videos, there will probably be a little bit of spoilers, so just a warning. So this episode starts right where we left off with Harry being sent to Tartarus, and now the sisters have to figure out what they can do to get him back. And, you know, there were definitely some surprises and some twists that we weren't expecting, but all in all, I have to say I was a little bit disappointed by this return. Let's start off with some positives first. I really enjoyed that we got to learn a lot more about Harry in this episode. We got to see a little bit of a flashback to his past as they torture him with his past memories in Tartarus. Wow, it is super windy. Sorry about that, guys. And you know, he's done some bad things in his life, but it was really all to save his dying child, and it turns out that he does. Which kind of gave me like a Jean Valjean a la Les Miserables vibes, like, who am I? 24601! I appreciated that we got to learn that about him, and that means that they are opening up this storyline for us to meet Harry's child in the future. But on the other side of that, I feel like the torturing that went on in Tartarus was kind of lackluster. You know, you'd think these memories or this pain would wipe Harry from his will to live, and then when Maggie comes down there, he's able to take on her pain as well. And speaking of Maggie, no offense to you, girl, I know you were heartbroken, but those torture memories seemed pretty weak in my opinion. Yes, there were a few with her mom, which is definitely a touchy subject since their mom was murdered, but I feel like they didn't really focus on that. I think that would have been actually really interesting to maybe give us more background on her family, and instead they really focused more on the memories that she had with Parker. And I feel like focusing more on Parker, who she had only just started dating, they don't really know that much about each other yet, it just felt like, wow, they don't really have much to torture her with. You know, obviously she's an empath, but I still like didn't really believe it. I didn't feel like there was enough pain for them to like feed off of. It just kind of seemed to me like the stakes in Tartarus were not high enough. And even when Harry gets back from Tartarus, it doesn't really seem like he's been permanently affected by his time there, although maybe that's something that we'll see as time goes on. I personally think that they moved a little too quickly though in getting Harry back. I would have really loved to see the girls struggle for 2, 3, 4 episodes without Harry, trying to figure out what to do, trying to figure out their own powers and their own sisterhood. I would just love to see them handle being witches on their own. I feel like they've been coddled too much. They are constantly being guided by either Harry or the elders, and I want to see them be able to do their own thing and not have so many rules and regulations on being a witch. I think if we got to see them be more independent and make their own choices, that we'd really get to see them really grow into their own as witches and sisters, and also grow into their characters. That brings me to the elders. So right now I'm not really feeling the elders in the show. I just don't like how involved they are in what's going on. I liked it in the original series where their white lighter was there and helped them, and the elders were like these higher ups that you never really saw. There's even this moment when the girls are talking to Charity about wanting to save Harry, and she's telling them not to and to stay on mission, and to me that made it seem like these girls are agents. They're just being used for a job or whatever and not actually witches. I get that the elders are supposed to sort of like represent our government and the issues that we're dealing with, but at this point I really just want to see the sisters get a chance to be witches without other people coming in and interfering and telling them what they're supposed to do and what they're supposed to be. I personally don't think that the Charmed ones need anyone to rein them in, but if they were to go with any group, I do think the Sarkana seem a little bit more interesting right now because of their passion to help people no matter what. They kind of seem like vigilante witches, and now that they've gotten that one witch out of Tartarus that is supposed to help them with everything, I'm really curious about like what her role is going to be in this season. Let's talk about some of the relationships that are going on in the show because there seems to be a lot. First off, Macy and Galvin. This was an interesting episode because we're fresh off of Galvin now finally learning that the girls are witches, and that's a pretty shocking secret to find out. The secrets keep piling on, and he also finds out that Macy is a virgin. I gotta be honest, sure, it was nice that Galvin came back and said like,
oh, didn't mean to react weirdly when you told me that you were a virgin, but like, you know, a witch and a virgin, that's like a lot going on.
But really, I don't get what the big deal is. I just think that whole idea of like, oh my god, a virgin, a rare unicorn, wow, like seems overplayed to me. More and more people are losing their virginities, getting married, having families later and later in life, especially compared to 10 or 20 years ago, so I don't really see the big deal in that. It ain't that serious, you know, like do you, have your own pace, don't compare yourself to other people, who cares if you're a late bloomer. And in terms of their relationship, I don't really know how I feel about them. I think when we first met Galvin, I was like on board, I was like this is gonna be so cute, and then as time has gone on, it kind of has gone up and then down, and then it kind of got stagnant, and now he knows their secret, and I don't know if I'm really feeling their relationship. Obviously Harry and Charity have a past, and who knows, maybe they'll get back together after that kiss. Woo! Getting into Maggie and Parker, I was interested in their relationship probably like the first episode or two that Parker made an appearance, but right now I'm not really feeling it. I just think we need to learn more about Maggie as a person, as a witch, who she really is, before we add in this whole can of worms of like a half mortal, half demon boyfriend. Parker seems to me like a character that I would have loved to see maybe in a future season, not right now. I think that right now would have been a really great time to focus on the sisters and growing that bond, especially since they just found out that they have a half sister, and then focus on relationships later on in the series. I just feel like Parker's like a little too early because not much has really happened yet for the sisters and their experience in growing their magic. I know this is supposed to be kind of similar to the Phoebe and Cole relationship, which I have to admit I wasn't like 100% on board that one either, but I feel like the reason that one worked a lot better was because we had already gotten to know Phoebe. We knew that she was very susceptible to the darker side, and so when we met Cole, it's like, oh, okay, you could definitely see her going for him. And with Cole, what was so great about him is that, you know, he had this dimension where like he's a demon, he's a human, he has a good side, he has a bad side, and you never really knew what you were gonna get. Like you could always see him like easily turning to the opposite side, and you couldn't fully trust him, I feel like. Let's get into Mel and her relationships. You know, there's definitely a spoiler alert coming here. First we get to see Jada, the Sarkana leader, and Mel kiss for the first time, so obviously something's gonna be going on there, something's gonna be brewing. Can she really trust Jada though, is the question. And the second thing, pretty big and exciting, is that Nico is back. We get to see Nico sneakily taking photos of Jada and Mel, so what does this mean? I mean, she could be after either one of them. We don't really know. Like, did something go wrong maybe with the spell and she is starting to have memories of Mel and maybe is looking for her? And who knows, could this be the start of a love triangle, or will Nico and Mel's relationship be completely different than what we were used to before? And the biggest spoiler of all, we finally got to learn more about the sisters and their fathers, which is something that I know that we've all been talking about in the comment sections of my videos and having like very detailed discussions about like what is the deal there, and now we found out, so I'm glad they finally explained it, although I do feel like now it kind of opens up some other questions, but we'll get into that. Basically we find out that the lab that Macy works at has all of their blood samples and has been doing this testing on them, and they don't really know what it's for. Galvin finds the paperwork, and looking through it, Macy finds out that she actually has more DNA in common with Maggie than Maggie does with Mel. So that would essentially have to mean that Maggie and Macy have the same father, and Mel would have a different father, making her the half-sister. This like really blew my mind, because first my thoughts were like, okay, this kind of works out, because I know a criticism of the show and something that we've talked about, I actually have a video up of it, was that the show was not as Latina-led as it made it seem. Melanie Diaz was the only actress that was actually Latina, while the other two were not. And I think this actually gives the show a chance to kind of fix that a little bit. So if they were able to get a black man to play their father, that would actually make a lot more sense in this world and in regards to the representation that they're bringing forward. But now this gives us even more questions, because Macy's dad, Dexter Vaughn, has already passed away. He's already dead before the show even starts. And Maggie's dad, Ray, is a guy who exists, and he was supposed to come over for Christmas and he didn't. So could that maybe mean that Ray is actually Maggie's stepdad and she just doesn't know it? I think that they're gonna have to explain a little bit. Overall, breaking down this episode, I do think that there were a lot of fun surprises and twists and turns. You know, seeing Nico come back, learning that Maggie and Macy share more of a DNA connection than Mel does. But I do feel like oftentimes in the show, things move so quickly that the stakes don't really feel high. Like, it feels like we're not really getting a chance to kind of dive into what's going on with the characters and we're more like glossing over things. Like for instance, Maggie trying to get rid of her feelings with a spell. I wish that there had been a bigger consequence because of that. And I feel like the fact that they move through things so quickly makes it so that the actors don't get a chance to develop their characters to the furthest that they can, and it also doesn't really let us get to know the characters that well as viewers. I was hoping that since this show has been picked up for a full season that we'd get to see things slow down a little bit, take some more time, you know, develop the characters a little bit more, but I feel like this episode really felt very packed and rushed as well. I do like the sisters, but I feel like they don't all have enough of a bond yet, and I'm also really not invested in pretty much any of their romantic relationships. I just really don't think that that should have been a focus for the first season, and right now being a witch seems more like a job or a mission or a duty that they have to complete rather than this really amazing, magical, sometimes dangerous destiny with sisterhood at its core. I would even be down for more Demon of the Week episodes just to give us a chance to really learn more about the sisters themselves and their powers and see where that goes. After their first encounter with Alistair Kane in this episode, it looks like it might happen, although I have to say I thought it was pretty weird and suspicious that, you know, the girls come together, create this magical force field, power of 3, and then Alistair Kane gets scared and runs off and leaves town. That doesn't make any sense. Is he that much of a wimp? I don't think so. So I think that there's something brewing there. And the next week's episode should be really fun. This is directed by Jane the Virgin star Gina Rodriguez, and she's going to be directing her fellow Jane co-star Jaime Camille as the Hilltown University a cappella music director. And Chrissy Fit from Pitch Perfect 2 and 3 is also guest starring. It's kind of like a Pitch Perfect themed episode, so that should be interesting. It looks like Maggie is the focus of that episode, so I'm curious to see if she can actually sing. I would love to know what you guys think about this episode of Charmed and what you think we can expect the rest of this season. Do you think that we're gonna get a season 2? I don't know. Make sure to leave a comment down below and let me know. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and click that subscribe button because I come out with new videos every week. See ya!